Welcome back to the deep dive, where we really get into the heart of what makes things tick. And today we're looking at a piece of gear, a pedal that really changed things up, maybe quietly, but definitely profoundly, especially for, bassists and synth players. We are talking about the ZVEX Mastotron. Now, it's a fuzz pedal, sure, but it's one that genuinely sort of redefined what fuzz could be. It really challenged the rules. So our mission today, uncover its origins, dig into its pretty innovative design, and figure out why this little box became such a cult favorite for its versatility, yeah, but also those wild sounds. Okay, let's really unpack this.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is, like you said, this isn't just, the fuzz pedal story. ZVEX effects, folks who know them know they're all about pushing boundaries, right?
Right.
Wild stuff like the Fuzz Factory, total legend, pure chaos.
Glorious chaos, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the Mastotron,
Yeah.
that was different. It was a really conscious move, a pivot. It was designed from the ground up to be more stable, silicon-based, specifically to work well with a much wider range of instruments, not just guitar. And that intention, right from the start, that really set it apart in the effects world.
That contrast is so important, isn't it? Like, the Fez Factory was that mad scientist vibe, germanium-powered, unpredictable, spitty, amazing. But the Mastotron felt more refined. Still inventive, but maybe more controlled.
Controlled, yeah, but still capable of getting really weird. Zachary Vex, the mind behind ZVX, he'd already built this legacy with the Fuzz Factory, embracing the quirks. But then the Mastotron comes along, late 2000s, with this different goal. And it quickly got known as this modern gated fuzz. It could do smooth sustain, almost like a violin,
Right.
all the way to these super choppy, scuttery, almost synth-like sounds, a controlled explosion, like you said.
Exactly.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that choice for stability and versatility, it wasn't random. It really tapped into a growing need. Musicians were starting to experiment more, right? Bass, synths, baritone guitars, plugging them into standard pedal boards.
And finding out that a lot of old fuzz pedals just didn't cut it.
Exactly. They'd lose all the low end, get thin, just not react right. The Mastotron was kind of ahead of its time there, solving those compatibility problems almost before they became mainstream issues. It let people break free from that guitar-only fuzz world.
That's a great point about being ahead of the curve. Okay, so let's get under the hood. The engine you mentioned is that silicon fuzz circuit. Now, for maybe listeners who aren't deep into circuit stuff, what's the real difference? Silicon versus, say, the germanium in the Fuzz Factory. What does this all mean for the sound, for the feel?
That's a key question. It's not just technical jargon. It totally shapes the tone. Germanium, like in those vintage fuzzes, it's warmer, softer clipping. Sounds beautiful, very classic. But it can be really sensitive to temperature, input signals.
Yeah.
Less consistent,
Finicky?
Yeah, finicky is good. Silicon, though, it's tighter, more aggressive, hyping, much more stable, consistent across different conditions. For the Mastotron, that was deliberate, aiming for reliability, a different character, more modern, articulate, ready for anything.
Okay, that tighter, consistent thing makes sense as a base. But it wasn't just the silicon, was it? The Mastotron has those really unique controls people talk about constantly. How did those knobs and switches actually work together to give it such a crazy range?
Right, this is where the real magic happens. You've got your standard volume, tone, fuzz. Pretty straightforward. Output level, brightness, how much fuzz.
The usual suspects.
The usual suspects. But then you get the game changers. First up, that impedance control, the push-relax knob. And it's not just a clever name. It was genuinely revolutionary. It actively adjusts the pedal's input impedance, meaning you can plug basically anything into it, and it sounds good. Active pickups, basses with preamps, old keyboards, synths, stuff that usually makes traditional fuzz pedals choke or sound thin.
So it tackles that dreaded tone suck thing head on.
Exactly. It just wipes it out. You make sure whatever signal you feed, it gets fuzzed properly without losing its character beforehand, like a universal input adapter for fuzz.
Okay, that alone is huge, especially back then.
Totally. And then you've got the sub switch, 3 positions. This thing is all about controlling the low frequency content, how much bass gets through, basically.
Which for bass players must have been like a miracle.
Oh, absolutely critical. Most fuzzes just kill the low end on bass.
Yeah.
Turns your thump into a thin buzz.
Yeah, been there.
Right. The sub switch lets you keep that low end, even boost it sometimes. So basses get that gnarly fuzz and still sound like a bass.
Okay, subs for the lows, impedance for compatibility.
What about the PW knob, the pulse width one? That's where it gets really weird, right? That's where the really weird stuff lives, yeah. The PW knob is what brings in those gated, sputtery, synth-like textures. It actually changes the shape, the symmetry of the sound wave, chops it up in different ways.
Like pulse width modulation on a synth.
Exactly like that. You can dial in these really tight, almost robotic gates or make it sound more open and buzzy. It's how you get those sounds like a dying battery or a broken speaker or even kind of like a ring modulator sometimes. Sounds that normal fuzzes just can't do.
Wow, so it's less a simple fuzz, more like a mini sound design toolkit. Okay, paint a picture for us then. What does it actually sound like when you start twisting those knobs together?
Okay, imagine cranking the fuzz, then playing with that PW knob. You get these wild, gated, spitting sounds, like your amp is just about to die,
Oh.
or like an old Atari is melting. But it's musical, it's controllable, great for industrial sounds, glitchy stuff, even those chiptune textures.
Okay, that's the wild side.
Right. But then dial the fuzz back, maybe set the PW less extreme, and you can get really smooth, almost overdrive-like fuzz, totally usable for rock, blues even.
Versatile.
Very. And then hit that sub switch, especially for bass.
Yeah.
Suddenly it's this thick, woolly, just massive wall of fuzz. Huge sound.
It's amazing how much ground it covers, and I think what still blows people away is how well it does all this on guitar and bass and synths. Like you said, most classic fuzzes struggle with just one of those sometimes, losing definition or low end if you stray too far from a standard guitar. The Mastotron just handles it. So with all that going on, it's no shock it found this really interesting, maybe unexpected group of fans, and here's where it gets really interesting. Bass players. It got a huge following with bassists. We've touched on why, but it's worth saying again. That sub-switch, the impedance control, lifesavers, no more tone suck, no more disappearing low end.
Wasn't just fixing a problem, it really opened things up creatively for them. Think about it before.
Mm-hmm.
A bassist wanting fuzz often faced a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Sound thin and buzzy, or just become undefined mud. This pedal let them have both the aggressive texture and keep their fundamental weight in the band. Huge for rock, funk, dub, electronic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere bass needed some grit.
And not just bassists. Synth players jumped on it too. Why did those gated fuzz sounds click so well with the synth crowd?
Well, because that PW control could do things that felt very synth-like. It could interact with synth sounds in cool ways. You could gate a sustained pad sound, make it rhythmic, or take a simple synth wave and make it grindy, distorted, almost like a square wave.
Ah, enhancing the synth's own nature.
Exactly. It felt right at home for people using modular synths or making industrial music or even that retro chiptune sound. Those kinds of broken digital but analog textures were perfect. It really became a bridge, between guitar pedals and electronic music production.
That's a really cool crossover. Did it catch on much with, say, more traditional experimental guitarists, maybe folks who like the Fuzz Factory?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For some guitarists, it was like a more controllable Fuzz Factory. Still wild, still experimental, but maybe less likely to completely run away from you.
The Fuzz Factory as a wild horse, the Mastotron as maybe a highly trained attack dog.
Maybe. Something like that.
Yeah.
You could dial in those sputtery gated sounds with more precision rather than just hoping the Fuzz Factory felt like doing it that day. It really found its place with players who wanted fuzz to be more than just distortion. They wanted it to be like another instrument, a sound shaping tool. And while, okay, maybe you don't see it on every giant rock stage like a big muff or something,
Right.
it absolutely gained this deep respected cult status within those specific scenes. People who knew.
And that cult status really leads into its legacy, doesn't it? Especially that title, Bass-Friendly Fuzz. At a time when, like we've said, most fuzzes were just awful on bass dropping lows, losing clarity, the Mastotron wasn't just an option, it became the option for so many. Just indispensable for bassists wanting aggressive tones without vanishing, rock, funk, experimental stuff. It really solved that core problem.
And looking at ZVEX as a company, the Mastotron was significant too. It proved they could do the practical, player-friendly problem-solving thing just as well as the totally out-there experimental stuff. It broadened their appeal, showed their range.
Right.
And then there's that cult status in electronic music we talked about, those gated sounds.
Yeah.
That was huge. It crossed over into noise and electronic scenes where guitar fuzzes usually just didn't go.
Which is pretty rare.
Very rare. And it's lasted, too. The original hand-painted ones came out, early 2000s? Then the Vexter series version made it more affordable, and both are still made today. That makes it one of ZVEX's longest-running fuzzes. Speaks volumes about its design and relevance, doesn't it?
Absolutely. A testament to getting something really right. Okay, so that brings our deep dive on the ZVEX Mastotron towards its close. What we've really seen is a pedal that did more than just add another fuzz sound. It sort of bridged that gap between boutique weirdness and actual real-world usability. You've got the solid silicon foundation, that game-changing bass friendliness, those unique controls, impedance, subs, PW. It offered this fuzz experience that was somehow versatile, modern, and deeply experimental all at once, a real Swiss Army knife, but for fuzz. So what does this all mean for you listening in, whether you're a player or just interested in how things work?
Well, I think it means that, yeah, the Mastotron might not have the same wild mythology as the Fuzz Factory. Maybe it's not as easily unpredictable.
Yeah.
But it's a cult favorite for really specific, really important, innovative reasons. It didn't just make a noise, it solved genuine problems for musicians who felt overlooked by other pedals.
Hmm.
And in doing that, it opened up totally new sounds and possibilities. And maybe the thought to leave you with is this: how often does real groundbreaking innovation come not from trying to be the flashiest or loudest, but from cleverly solving those specific, maybe unglamorous problems? Finding creative ways to push boundaries for all instruments, not just the expected ones. It's a reminder that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas are the ones that just fundamentally make things work better for more people.